Hello, good evening, leaders, and welcome again to this broadcast brought to you by the Executive Network. We've been going through a few sessions on leadership development with special focus on personal leadership focus, and we are progressing in that journey as we continue to really challenge ourselves as we reach deep into the recess of our hearts to really find out what is our peculiar assignment on the face of the planet. Before I go on, I would like to get us acquainted with the platform that we're using. If you look on your screen, you'll probably notice a few items to your right hand side. So if you look to the top right hand corner, you see a few buttons in there or a few icons. The first one is a chat button. So if you would like to chat, leave a message, ask a question, or provide a suggestion, or anything that comes to mind, please use that. And if you click on that, you will see a space towards the bottom right hand corner where you can leave a message. So I encourage you to use that, and it's something that I like to really promote during our broadcast. And if again you want to say hello to your friends or invite a few other people among your friends and associates, please we encourage you to do that. Get them on board. They may be work colleagues, they may be family members. Please do so, and let's chain together as we go on in this journey. You might also notice that some poll session might be coming up. So please, I invite you to provide answers to those polls so that we can look at what to improve, how we can change, and what we can do better. Thank you very much. Now, this evening, I want to talk about a topic which I've captioned the passionate leader. The reason why I've put this together is because of the session we had last week where we touched on the passion of a leader. And I felt like I needed to do a bit of justice and to that subject. So before I go on, I would like to tell a story about two gentlemen. Two of them work for the same organization, and they were both team leaders. Now, it would happen that in a particular team, people would come, they will work with the team leader for a bit, and then they will move on. So his turnover was a bit high. But on the other hand, within the same organization, there's this other colleague who people seem to want to work for. And they were wondering that why is this so? What's happening among these two gentlemen? You know, this other one, the first gentleman I mentioned about, would come in and say, you know, guys, let's do it. We can meet this target. Let's go for it, and so on and so forth. He will use motivational speeches and all that. But people would come, and after a while, they would just be disgruntled and they want to leave. But this other guy, he never really used any definite motivational style or speeches. It would just look to the affairs of his team members, and it just happened that people were coming to his side and people were always wanting to work for him. So this other gentleman who was having a high turnover just started to really wonder what he was doing wrong. Now, on one of those days, he met this other colleague, I think in the lobby, and he said, I'm just really, he said, I have to bring myself to say this. I noticed that, you know, your team members seem to be highly motivated. They want to work for you and all that. What exactly are you doing differently? And the guy said, well, I'm not exactly doing anything really special. It just so happened that maybe perhaps we should maybe discuss over coffee. And they discussed a bit and they shared the methods they were using. And on one of these days, the guy said, okay, perhaps you should talk to anyone you think is really having a good time in our team. Now, so this guy took up that challenge and he spoke to one of them. And the guy said, you see, when I came to this team, I really didn't have any strong aspirations about, career prospect and all that. But this team leader, this manager, just sort of took me aside and really took interest in my development. And on one special day, he said, "Look, Tom, would you like to present to the board in the next meeting?" And the guy was obviously shocked because this was a role that team leaders would normally play. So he said, "No, no, serious." He said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Oh yes, I'm serious." So, but he said, "Look, I know you might have a bit of apprehension, but I'm going to help you. I will spend time with you to help you put together the slides, and also you can do a demo of the script with me, and we can get that sorted." So this guy took up the challenge, and the manager took time with him, and really did help him to put the slide together. They did a bit of dry run, and when the day came, the guy simply said, "Well," he introduced the meeting and then said, "Well, at this time, I would like to turn over to my colleague Tom to do the presentation." Obviously, there was a bit of mixed emotions, a bit of apprehension, a bit of excitement, but this guy went ahead and did the presentation, and the board members were extremely excited, and they were actually asking about this young man. That where did you? I mean, is it a new recruit and all that? And the guy came out of that meeting feeling valued, feeling appreciated, and feeling like it has a potential to grow. So now this became something that this young man Tom took to heart and felt like, I'm going to give my more than 100% to do whatever needs doing in this organization. Whereas this other guy, he thought to himself, I never really do this. Most of the time, I'll get my team members to do the runaround, and then when it comes to the presentation, I don't share that. I just do it. So, and it became apparent to him that you really cannot grow a team unless you truly grow the people, unless you have true interest in development of the people. So it took that away, and obviously, you know what the next line of story will be. So, all right. On that note, I would like to sort of come to the presentation proper, and I have a question to ask. Most of the time we talk about leadership, and sometimes we have a different. If you pick 7 people, I'm sure you have 7 different viewpoints on the subject of leadership. So I want to ask: are leaders born or are they made? Are leaders born or are they made? If you want to respond to that, you can post on the chat button and let's know what you think. Are leaders born or are they made? Well, you could tell that Tom really felt like he could do something, he could become something within the organization. And he had that aspiration inside of himself, even if he wasn't exactly confident or had never been placed in a situation where he could really deliver what he was truly capable of. So I like to say that the goal of every human being is really to become a leader, to be a leader. In this broadcast, you probably know a few of our definitions around leadership, and you see that when we say leader, it may mean something utterly different from our contemporary or our conventional definitions. But I'd like to put it to you that the goal of every human is to be a leader. And leadership is inherent in every human being. Every human being on earth. Whatever their state, whatever their lot in life, whatever they may be going through at the moment, it is a fact and truth that leadership is resident in every human being. Now, every human being was born to a leader, but the sad reality is this: most leaders will never emerge. And there are many reasons for this. Some of them have to do with things that come from within the individual: self-doubt, the poor self-concept, or some of them might be a bit external, which may be the influence of the prevailing culture on the individual. Some people really have been told that they cannot amount to anything. And even if they aren't told that exactly, the vibes they get from the environment say that no, well, people like you can't do anything great. It may not be said, but that's the perception. So there are a lot of reasons, but even though everyone is born to be a leader, the sad reality is that may just not happen to most people. And I did say that, why is that? One of the principal things that we found is that cultural influences, the influence of culture has a lot to do about whether someone does indeed grow to become the leader that he was born to be. So cultural influences do inhibit leadership development. If you look around in some countries, there's perception that certain people just don't seem to know how to lead themselves. When you put anything in their hand, somehow, one way or the other, it just doesn't really move or advance as it should be. But in spite of that, the truth is that you and I are born to be leaders. We are born to lead. But as true as that is, one other thing is certain, that we must become a leader. We are born to be, but we must become a leader. And when time we use the word become, it is the fact that it is a process. Leadership is our reality, is our truth, but the truth must become a reality. And that's why I tend to say that, yes, you are born to be a leader, but you must become. So you are born to be a leader, but you must indeed become. And the same is true. If you look at a tree, you take a seed in your hand, the seed has the potential to grow into a tree and has the potential to bear as many fruits as possible. And those fruits themselves have the capacity to bear many other trees and fruits, and so on and so forth. So every seed can indeed become a tree, but that only happens through a process. And you find out that's why I said that, the sad reality is, even though the seed is meant to become a tree, that may just be a distant aspiration and may never happen. So the bottom line is this: leaders are both born and made. They are born to be, but they are made through a process, which is why it talks about the priority of process for every one of us. One of such is what we're trying to do on this platform. It may sound like, oh, we're doing leadership training. We're not really training ourselves to be leaders. If I can say that. What we are doing is that we are creating the environment that makes leadership possible, environment that cultivates the leadership seed in everyone. And if I talking about environment, you will notice that one of the most important things in the reality of a seed becoming a tree is the environment that the seed is exposed to. So if you put a seed, say, think about it, as much as chocolate is so much loved in the Western world, I'm not really sure of any plantation where, in all of Europe, where cocoa is grown. I'm not sure. I'll do my research, but certainly not in the UK, certainly not in France. Why? Cocoa does not grow very well or at all in Europe. So even though you like chocolate, but you may never have it if you don't have the right environment where you go the tree that produces the cocoa plant that then gives you chocolate. So that's why I would say that the environment is most important for the seed. And what we are doing on this platform really is creating that environment and keep repeating it until the light dawns in our heart that, wait a minute, I'm truly a leader. And the truth of the matter is this: you never really change until you come to wait a minute moment. The moment when you say, wait, is this really true? The first thing is that you actually must question what I'm saying. And that's welcome, because sometimes you never really believe until you first doubt. You say, wait, am I really a leader? I think I am. I am a leader. But I must submit to the process of becoming a leader. And then, you've been wondering, why do we have to do this? Well, I think you just need to look around and you see that our world is in desperate need of a different style of leadership. Look at Europe. As beautiful, as wonderful as Europe is, you see what's going on in Eastern Europe, for example. How that there's a bit of conflict going on, and you wonder that, is peace utterly impossible, or could we not have a different kind of leadership that thinks about a different way of handling human issues that does not generate into conflict and destruction? And that's Europe. But look around the world as well and see the impact that leadership, what leadership does contribute to the plight of humans. And you probably, and you will know that whether you like it or not, it's coming to you. It's coming to your doorstep. And if we don't deliberately commit to leadership development, it may just be something that comes unawares. And when it does come, we don't know what to do. Or we may be thinking that, well, leadership is something that somebody else has to deal with. Well, I think that's not exactly correct, because if you want to change, you must be the answer to your prayer. Okay, right. I'll talk briefly about some definitions. And I say that true leadership is like beauty. When you see beauty, it's hard to define. For example, if you look into the sky and you see the sun setting and you see an afterglow, you think, wow, this is beautiful. But if prior to that someone says define beauty, you may not think about the afterglow of the sun. So leadership, just like beauty, is something that you sometimes seem to experience it before you can define it. That's why I say it's like beauty. Now, definitions, when we're talking about definitions, that comes from truth and consistent occurrence of a phenomenon or a thing. So if something is constantly happening, it's constant, is repeating, and we're saying, okay, I can see this happening in this particular place and that other place, and it seems to be consistent, then you can begin to say, right, okay, let's come to some kind of conclusion about this matter. So, and that talks to the concept of principles. Principles are established truths. So if something, you can define something when you're able to identify principles inherent in them. And that the same thing is true about leadership. And they say that principles are established laws of truth. Okay. Now, principles are laws that remain the same and unchanged over time and environment. This is something I did mention in the past sessions, but I feel like we need to repeat it for the purpose of indoctrination and reinforcement. Indoctrination simply means that until it echoes to your mind over and over, it just may not make a mark. And that's why we're doing this. Now, consistent qualities found in high achieving or successful characters help to define leadership to a great extent. So if I talk about, say, whatever you think about him, say Mandela, and you think, okay, the guy sacrificed for 27 years. If I talk about Mahatma Gandhi, I think he sacrificed for X number of years. If I talk about Mother Teresa, I think she also sacrificed for a number of years. So you begin to say, okay, leadership has an element of sacrifice in it. So that's what I mean. When and that's just for an example. That consistent quality that we find in high achieving, successful characters help us to define the concept of leadership. If I talk about that people, say the great master teacher himself, Jesus, and you think, okay, how did he handle people? Or if I talk about other people that might come to mind, say maybe the man Apostle Mo, and the way it did handle people and handle himself, we begin to see a similar thread and think, okay, this is another character or character element that we might want to focus on to define leadership. Okay, now when in this context, we did say that everyone is created and born to be a leader, but the question would be that if everyone is a leader, who follows? Should we all be in front? And if we are all in front, who will be at the back? Well, that concept is something that I would like to address right away. That when we say everyone is born to be a leader, what we mean is that the leadership we're talking about is not really over people. I've said this many times, and I'll say it again. And until this really settles in our mind, the leadership mode, the leadership, the application of a leadership style may just remain the same. So everyone is born to a leader, but not over people. It is leadership in an area of gifting. And we're thinking, when we say gifting, is it that because if I can run, then I'm a leader? Well, I'm coming to that. Leadership emanates from the discovery of the unique gift that you are given to serve the world. That's why sometimes, I like to use very simple elements. Orange tree. Orange simply bears its fruit. The preoccupation of orange is to bear oranges. Whatever you think about it, whether you like oranges or not, the orange doesn't care. It just bears oranges. And people that want oranges, who want it, sometimes will travel miles to get that orange. So orange, therefore, simply just attracts people to its fruit. Okay. Now, this leadership philosophy is a reality, and it also connects the process, like I did mention in previous slides. And the principle there is this: you will not lead us if you will not serve us. It's a kind of leadership that talks about service rather than being served. It is leadership that's about service, serving, improvement of others, rather than being or seeking to be improved. So you will not lead us if you will not serve us. Now, as a matter of fact, in this art of service, we're not talking about servitude, because servitude and service are different. Servitude has to do with diminishing of an individual and subjection of an individual to go in a direction that it would not ordinarily go to, or do something that it would not ordinarily do. But service is actually a thing of joy. It's bringing out of oneself what one has in words for the benefit of others. And that's the difference I want us to pay attention to. Now, talking about leadership philosophy, I like the word philosophy a lot. Not because I'm a philosopher, but when you think I am, because everyone who thinks has a philosophy. Okay? Now, trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. I'm a young man who has been taught by great teachers. And one of my great teachers is the man, Dr. Miles Monroe. And he taught this, and I believe in it 100%, that trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. Okay? Just like trapped in every seed is a tree. Okay? But every human being was created and designed to lead and wired to dominate in an area of gifting, not over people. These principles are principles that are enshrined and ingrained in the oldest text there is on the planet. That trapped in every follower is a hidden leader, and that every human being was created and designed to lead and wired to dominate. Why is this important? Look around us again. In every country, there is some form of leadership contest going on from time to time. And whether you like them or not, certain people are getting into positions of authority, positions of power. And whatever you think or whatever you don't think, they have experiences that they bring to bear over the rest of the populace. Now, it follows that whatever they believe, whatever they see, whatever they think is to be done about human is exactly what they do. Positions of power do not change people. People go into positions of power with whatever they have inside. So, which means if somebody does not really value people and is in the position of authority over a company, well, you have a leader, a CEO who has no value for people. The position of CEO will not suddenly change his ideas about human beings. That's why at this stage, we are really working on certain ideas that will prepare us for the opportunities that come ahead right from where we are right now. Okay, I'll continue. That, I just highlighting that point. We are wired, we are created and designed to dominate in an area of gifting. Leadership potential resides in every human. Now, what does this mean? If you look at a child that you meet today, you have to think about that child. That now this is a child, a 5-year-old, but there is a leader trapped. There is a man in this young boy. There is a woman in this young boy. But whatever man or woman that we will see, well, it's really, excuse me, dependent on what influences go into that child. You are born to lead, but you must become a leader through a process. Okay? True leadership is self-manifestation. And when I say self-manifestation, I'm talking about two things: self-discovery and the decision to become what you've discovered. Look, I know for a fact that a lot of people have found a lot of things about themselves, but a lot of people are really not really courageous. They're unsure because you can know about yourself and never become it. The seed knows that it's a seed. It knows that it can become a tree, but it may sit on the pavement for 100 years. There's a true story about a discovery that was made in the tomb of one of the mummies in Egypt. While on a visit, it was found in one of those tombs a maize seed that's been preserved for 3,000 years. Now, research did indicate that when that maize was planted, they did find one of the biggest crops of maize there ever is any part of the world. Which means that seed has been lying down there for 3,000 years. It could bring out bountiful crops, but it was just not planted. It was preserved with a mummy. It was a mummified maize seed. So it could become a bountiful harvest, but it just wasn't planted. So that's why I would say that it's not just enough to discover. There must follow that discovery a decision to become. So the mango seed must decide to become a mango tree. And sometimes the reason why we don't decide to become is because it's costly. Making a decision to become what you have seen about yourself sometimes bears a cost. In fact, all of the time bears a cost. And that's why sometimes it's like a snail coming out of the shell. And as soon as it touches a shrub, it goes back into the shell. Most of us sometimes we find ourselves, but we keep withdrawing back into our shell. And my challenge to you is whether or not you're going to decide to become what you have seen about you. We are not really creating leaders. No, we're only inspiring the leader that is hidden inside. You may discover your leadership gift, but never develop it. You may never develop the courage and the confidence to become yourself. So that decision requires courage and confidence. And something about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is that there is fear, but you have decided to move on in spite of the fear. So courage is the ability, the attitude to make progress in spite of fear, in spite of inhibitions. Okay, we're not stopping there. True leadership is not control, but service. I've said that before. And it is the fact, it's a true fact that it is service that makes leaders great. I like to talk because I've spent a lot of time in the IT sector, and I keep looking at some of the predecessors. I look at the man Bill Gates. Bill Gates, at any point in time, never made an invitation to be called, um, you know, a great man in IT or any such accolades. It was simply focused on an idea. The idea was Windows, is still Windows, and will continue to be Windows. And as a mark of his great service, I can almost argue that in one appliance that you have in your house, there is a Windows element running on it. Somehow, somewhere, it's in there. Or if I talk about Intel, the corporation Intel, they just focus on developing the ability to perform processes faster, quicker, and in greater volume per second. And that led them to create microchips. And in your car, whether it's in your car, on your PC, or in your TV, there is some Intel processor hidden there. So these guys, sometimes we don't even know their names, but we see their product, we see their service through their product. So it is service that actually makes leaders great. Leadership is not about power, but empowering others to become themselves. Look, this is something that is absolutely true, because a true leader is not interested in arrogating power to himself. It's not really what you become, but what you help others to become. It is not what you get, but what you give to other people. So true leadership is empowerment. It's seeing somebody who will have turned out to be a trouble to the society, and taking him or her by the hand and saying, there is an alternate path, and I will invest in you in that path with you, and I hope that you truly become what you are born to be. Leadership is not about manipulation, but inspiration. Look, true leadership has no element of manipulation in it, because the moment a leader manipulates, he has already cancelled his leadership. You can never have or exhibit true leadership without inspiration, because a leadership that is crafted in manipulation is a deformed leadership. So, but the truth of the matter is that when you cannot inspire, when you don't know how to inspire, you have no other choice but to resort to manipulation. And once you do, you are no longer a true leader. I'm saying this at this stage because most of us are young people. We're just emerging. We are emerging leaders. We are growing into our leadership, and we need to have these things firmly rooted as foundations in our heart, that we cannot have a leadership style or leadership heart or attitude that has an element of manipulation in it. Okay, now leadership is not about controlling people, but finding purpose for living. It's not really about what I'm going to do for other people, how I'm going to make other people to like me. No, it's that you have found something that you have to live for. It's you have found a mandate, something that is mandated about yourself that you must be. It's like it's the way that our plants, our trees, single-mindedly focus on bearing their fruit and their fruit only. Wait, what will happen if suddenly at your backyard you find a cashew on your orange plant? What will happen? I'm sure you'll call CNN or BBC to say, well, there's a new phenomenon here. Why? You don't want a cashew on an orange. And the orange tree has no interest. No matter how many people like cashew, even if cashew seems to be in season, the orange doesn't care. All it has to do, all it has capacity to do, is to bear its orange. So leadership is not really about what to do to please people, to appeal to people. No. Even though people are the object of the service, but the real crux of true leadership is finding purpose for living. And leadership is about purpose rather than people. Because leaders are generated by a sense of purpose and not by making people subjected to them. These examples abound around us where people believe that if you're walking and you have no one following you, you're just taking a walk. But well, the irony is that true leaders don't really care about who's following them. Their preoccupation is the destination that they have seen as better than today. Leadership is about becoming more than doing. It's about becoming what you have seen. And let's look around us again. Every leader that we have today, whether in the religious circle or in the business world, on politics, or whatever sphere of influence, every true leader among them focus on becoming more than doing, on becoming what they have seen. This is the real me. This is the truth about me, and I'm giving everything to become that. Now, United said that culture has a way of shaping leadership, and that's why most true leaders declare independence from their culture. I want to tell a story about, well, a man I call Mr. Mo. Mo, in order to really find himself, to become himself, had to reject the environment where he was cultured and say, well, even though I could have bounties here, but I've seen something else about myself, and I'm willing to pursue that at a cost. And that's why sometimes when you have to declare independence from the culture that gave you birth, it comes with a cost. But true leaders, in spite of that, declare independence from their culture. Most leaders have to leave their environment to become themselves. A lion that decides to reside among sheep can have no other experience other than bleating. So most true leaders have to leave their familiar environment, because familiarity is the graveyard of greatness. You have to leave an environment. I'm not talking about living a particular town, or I'm talking about the environment, the perception of the culture, to really become who you really are. It was what happened. Sometimes it could look a bit odd. Look at Bill Gates. He was a student at Harvard, but he kept seeing how that he could change the world by creating application programs. And what did he do? He left Harvard. And in time, he began to hire many Harvard scholars. Of course, we're not suggesting that we should leave our education. No, that's not the suggestion. I'm just saying that sometimes when you find out what you really are capable of doing, sometimes you need to take that step and leave a familiar environment to become yourself. Leadership demands extraction from the pack. Leadership demands extraction from the pack. I've said this before, and there's something about yeast, that yeast really have influence to make a change, to birth a change, must leave an environment it's familiar with. Yeast can never influence if it stays in the block, in the pack. Most leaders decide to defy someone else's expectation of them. Whether you like it or not, a lot of people expect different things about you. They have their opinions about you. Some people think, okay, this is what it is. Most people tend to want to figure other people's out. But the thing about leaders is that they already met themselves before they met you. And so when you are given a suggestion that isn't what they saw, well, your suggestion is coming too late. Most leaders meet themselves first before they meet other people. So that's why they can defy someone else's expectation of them. Leaders are people who decide not to seek your approval to act. Leaders are so busy standing out that they don't have time to fit in. Conformity is good, but conformity automatically cancels difference. And once everything conforms, then it's impossible to have variety. So that's why leaders are busy standing out to become what they are. You see, a lot of people want, the society wants hegemony, which is fine. But imagine that everyone is a carpenter. Then the NHS or the hospital service will be in trouble. If everybody were to be a programmer, then there will be no police. If everybody were to be a lawyer, then we'll have a very loud society. So it's not so much about just fitting in, it's about standing out to make a difference. Leaders understand that the cultural environment prioritizes conformity over difference, and they choose to pursue their difference, the difference that they can make. So leaders are truly difference makers, like John Maxwell wrote. The purpose of true leadership is not to maintain followers, but to produce leaders. If after you stayed around me, for example, for 10 years, I'm just for the sake of discussion, and you still feel like just a follower, then it's either I've failed or you aren't thinking really. Sorry for that harsh word. Because the purpose of true leadership is not to maintain followers, but to produce leaders. The master teacher, they show it. In 3.5 years, he said, okay, let's have a contract. Young man, just follow me, and I am going to make you a leader. And wise these guys were struggling to catch on and say, look, I don't have time to stay around you. You have to get this lesson on time so I can go away. Because true leaders are not interested in perpetuating followers. Rather, they are interested in producing other leaders. That's why I said, follow me, and I will make you a fisher of men. Fisher of men is a word for someone who draws out other people's potentials, other people's abilities. True leaders have the passion to make other people great and succeed. In fact, they have the passion to make other people greater than themselves. That's what true leaders do. True leaders feel secure. So the reason why true leaders want other people to be great is because they understand that your greatness does not cancel their own greatness. A true leader knows that it actually needs you to become great so that your greatness can complement his own greatness. Think about it. If every part of a house were to be roof, then where are the windows? Where are the walls? Where are the sofas? Where are the kitchen cabinets? Because the kitchen cabinet knows that we need the doors so that we can close paths to the kitchen. So true leaders, therefore, they feel secure in themselves, and that's why they're not threatened by the emergence and greatness of others. That's only because they have a healthy self-esteem. True leaders help other people to achieve greatness. So a true leader can submit himself to another leader and just work with that leader to achieve greatness. Why? Because he knows that he's also a great man, and you need greatness to birth greatness. In other words, the greatness of a true leader does not cancel or is not subsumed by the greatness of another. Most people never truly manifest their leadership potential because of fear and the pressure to conform to social norms, cultural expectations, and the education that they receive. I like to make a point about the education is that most people are educated out of their leadership gift. Most people are utterly convinced not to believe in themselves. And you're wondering, are we talking about ourselves? Yes, we're talking about ourselves, because you and I are gifts to the world. And so when we practice self-cancellation, self-devaluation, then we really rob our world what we've been given to deliver to them. It's like a mango seed, doubting that it's a mango. How can it ever produce its mango fruits? It stands to ridicule that a tree has an utterly different idea about itself than what it is. So, so true leadership, therefore, is not a pursuit, but a discovery. It starts from within. It's a discovery of something that you bear to give to other people. It's a discovery of something that is internal. It may not be evident to say, but you know it's internal. And that's why true leadership demands what we call faith, because only you might be saying it for a while. It demands faith. It takes faith, true faith, to birth your leadership gift. True leadership, true leaders never seek leadership or power or notoriety or fame, because that's not the object. The object is that child within that they have to deliver to the world. Leaders understand that they may be the ones carrying the child in the womb, but the child cannot stay in the womb forever. That child must be born and delivered to the world. And as a matter of fact, once that child is born, that child has a life of its own. And that's why the product, the service that true leaders birth must live on after them. True leaders seek to correct a wrong, to make a difference. That's why, I'm laying this foundation to talk about what really creates the passion of a leader. Is that they see something wrong that they must correct. I'll tell you this personal story. When I was in my final year in the university, I began to ask questions. I was saying, why is Africa like this? Obviously, I'll tell you why I was saying that. I was living in the backyard of a house in the boys, what we call boys quarters, or in the the quarters. And this night I wanted to study, but there was no light. Well, you probably guess where I studied. There was no light, and the whole place was dark, and I needed to study. So I walked out of my room and I began to think, why is Africa like this? Not because there wasn't light, but a lot of things came together at that point. And I was thinking, why is Africa? And I wasn't thinking about a particular nation. I was thinking about a whole continent. Why is Africa like this? Why does it seem that Africa just doesn't know what to do with itself? And I tell you, I'm still asking that question. That question is really what's leading me to do what I'm doing. Because it began to dawn on me that it may continue to be so unless something is done about it. And something done about it, it's not necessarily going on a continental basis and say, let's change the whole continent. No. Let's work with men and women that we see. Just the next one that we see close to us. Just the next man. Just the next woman. So truly they seek to correct a wrong, to make a difference. True leadership is a result of discovery of purpose, the reason for existence. And you find out that most traders have to say this about them. I have found this thing that I must do. It's something that takes over their lives. They can't, it's like someone who's pregnant. A time comes when the pregnancy takes over the life of the mother. This child must be born. This child cannot be withheld anymore. It must be born. And look, talking about the discovery of purpose is that nothing was created for beauty. It may appear beautiful. For example, when you look at the afterglow of a sun, it looks beautiful, but the real interest is not the beauty. When you look at the sun shining in brilliant or stars, it's not for beauty. It's for the function. There's a reason for it. So design is primarily for the assigned function. So you design a thing not because of beauty really, but because of the function it must perform. We see many things. We see a lot of birds. I was saying this bird is beautiful. Well, the color that you find on the bird is really most of the time to attract a mate. so that they can continue to procreate. We see flowers and we think this flower is beautiful. Well, the beauty of the flower is to really make sure pollination happens, is to attract certain kind of insects who are would only which are designed to be attracted to those petals. So nothing really is created for beauty. Nothing as well is without a purpose. Everyone comes to earth with and for a purpose. So if anyone is unconvinced about this, I'd just like to really let's lay the marker down. There is a reason. You have something inside you that is not for you, it's for us, and we will be robbed unless you deliver that thing. We can talk about it, but we have to come to a point personal. That's why we are creating an environment where as we do this, I'm trusting that something is triggered from within. That as we talk about this, as we repeat it, if even as you think about it from Wednesday to another Thursday, that or Friday to another Thursday, that okay, we're having a leadership session. You are really thinking, you are in leadership thinking mode. You are thinking there is a leadership mandate on me. There's something I'm designed to produce. There is something I'm designed to deliver. There's something I'm pregnant with, which must be delivered to my world, and the world will only become better for it. Now I come to this. It's coming to the heart of this discussion. Leadership anger. All true leaders are full of anger and hate. When I say this, I'm not talking about hating people. No, there is something that they feel must be corrected. There's something they think this has to be solved. Look at Sir Winston Churchill. He happened to be the prime minister at the time when Europe was in a crisis, and he didn't plan for it, but it happened to him, and it was mandated. He thought this must be corrected, and so Sir Winston Churchill led a military expedition that altered the course of the Second World War. So, two leaders, they have something that they're angry about something. It's like when I was, why is Africa like this? I wasn't asking that with smiles. I was angry inside of me. Why does it seem that the lot of a people is to be consumed in conflict, in strife, religious or political? Why are people being destroyed? Why is this? Why is this? There are many times that I watch documentaries or like an appeals on TBN, and I see fundraising campaign. I tell you, I'm not thinking about putting money. Sometimes I cry. I think, why would a lot of people be like this? Why? You cannot become a leader until you are hungry and hate something, an injustice that needs to be corrected. It was like what Mother Teresa saw. Mother Teresa happened to be a primary school teacher or junior high school teacher in India. And as she went to work day and night, she would pass through leprous people in downtown India. And we would see them and we go around there. You see people whose limbs have been chopped off by leprosy, who have died in that process. And a point came when she said, I can't bear this anymore. I have to go and help them. And she told her Monsignor, please give me my salary. I want to go and feed them. He said, look, India has millions of people. He said, I will start with the first one. And thus was born Mother Teresa, who before her death was privileged to address the United Nations, and she was only 4 feet and a half high tall. She was not seeking leadership. She just saw something, an anomaly that must be corrected. Until you are hungry, you remain a follower, because anger is the raw material for change. It's like another man that I know of. This man is the creator of Team Mania. He was looking at young people who are sort of getting destroying themselves with bad habits, with a lot of vices, and he was crying. He was crying, and he thought, I must do something about it. I can't afford to see them continue this way. And so he became the one, a privileged man, to bat the largest youth ministry in the world. So you really don't learn it. So I'm not, when I'm talking about anger, I'm not talking about something that is meant to destroy. No, because true anger, leadership anger, is a kind of anger that corrects, that builds, and does not destroy. You really don't learn leadership. It actually happens to you, like it did to Sir Winston Churchill, to Mother Teresa, to Mahatma Gandhi, to Nelson Mandela. It happens to you. Leadership is born when you can't take it anymore. And that's exactly what happened to Mother Teresa. So I can't take it anymore. As long as you can take it, the status quo remains. As long as you're able to accommodate it, you can never correct what you are unwilling to confront. Followers don't become leaders because they want survival. Rather, because followers are transitioning into leadership when they desire change and they're willing to pursue that change. A lot of people are only after survival, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to drink. And so they just remain followers. Because followers are really only interested in sustenance and survival. Now I come to this leadership compassion. So we talk about passion on one hand. So you may have all of that pent up energy to say, this change must happen. And anger really is, if you've done physics before, anger is a scalar quantity. So before I come to that, passion is energy, just like anger is energy. But anger is just, or your passion is just a scalar quantity. It has energy, but it really, on its own, lacks direction. Energy can have magnitude but no direction. Compassion is passion plus direction. It is passion that has been coagulated and channeled in a direction, in a course of action. I call it a vector quantity. It has magnitude and it has direction. Compassion is passion that is defined, that is purposeful and intentional. Passion is, in fact, passion will destroy without compassion. That's why a true leader must have compassion. Compassion is the willingness to change something that is not in order. Compassion is not sympathy. Sympathy is just a feeling of, you just really putting yourself in shoes of someone else and you feel their pain. Okay, that's fine, but that's not enough because something else must happen from sympathy. There must be a drive to do something about it. And that's what we call compassion. Compassion is passion driven by the vision of a better future. We're not talking about destruction, no. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about a drive to say, right, I have seen riots in my city, but no more. What can be done proactively to make sure that people don't even get to that state where they have to be driven to a wall, either wrongly or rightly, to go in the path of destruction? Because people who destroy the ground on which they stand will end up in a hole. So purpose gives anger meaning and real value. So it takes purpose to give passion meaning. It takes purpose to convert passion into compassion. Leadership motivation. If you and see what the reason I'm saying is that if you help people get what they want, you will always have what you need. True leaders do not work for money. they simply attract it. And examples abound. My senior in the business, a great leader in the business, Bill Gates, it's not exactly working for money. It's just attracting it. And there are a lot more. There are people who have put their passion on the line, their compassion on the line. And because of that, they just attract not just money now, they attract resources. True leaders inspire others to believe in their own abilities and capabilities. When I say ability and capability, I'm talking about ability is what you have inside by potential. Capability is what you are able to do because of what you have on the inside. So a true leader will draw out the ability of other people. We see a man who is going on the path of destruction and say that same energy that is driving you towards destruction can be channeled to create positive change. Because, if you take a knife, can cut meat, can also cut a human. But would you rather cut meat, or would you use knife to cut humans? That's why we're talking about positive anger that is directed. So really, if you see a young man who is in a gang or doing something, some kind of vice, that energy, that same energy needs to be channeled. Perhaps that young man can become effective in the police force or in the military. Perhaps that young man can become a youth leader, someone who can channel the energy of youth to productivity. But it must have them. That's why a leader it must meet someone who can say that same energy can have an alternative use. And that's why we're talking about this, because it's not until we go into a position. No, in everyday affairs, we may meet someone who may be on the course of destruction, and we say, hey, I can help. What about this option? Have you thought about this? And not just saying, then create the conditions. Remember the word culture, the conditions that allow that energy to be channeled in the right direction. I've met a few people who were living under the bridge as what people will call social miscreants. But these same people have turned out to be graduates in the university. What's the difference? When paths cross, lives can change. When paths cross, lives do indeed change. I will not be talking about what I'm talking about now, except that I met a leader who showed me that I need to come out of my shell, that I also can be a force for change. I can also inspire other people to their leadership. I have no interest in anybody serving me. I have no interest in anybody following me. I just have an interest in helping people to discover their true significance and to become what they have the capacity to become, what they are already born to become. Because you don't make a fish fish. You don't give a fish fins. A fish already comes with fins and fishes. But a fish that does not know what to do with fins will just float or sink to the bottom of the waters. Leaders help others to see and become what they already see through their eyes. And like people talk about balloon dreams. Well, you see, I don't believe in the concept of balloon dreams, because what you call balloon dreams is a dream that you are unwilling to pursue. Because as soon as you decide to pursue the dream that you see, it becomes a reality. So if you have a dream and you never really do wake up to act, then you can have a balloon dream. And sometimes balloon dreams do turn to nightmares. True leadership re-educate people back into themselves, and that's really what this platform is about. This is for housewives, this is for the police, this is for lawyers, this is for accountants, this is for CEOs. It's about re-educating people back into themselves. Sometimes you wonder that people are leaders. Well, if that is true, how is it that in the financial industry we had a tumult that was driven by the crisis in the mortgage sector, where people thought, well, this is an opportunity to amass so much wealth. somehow, whatever they thought about themselves isn't something that is about really building people. It's about what they can get. So they may have seven-figure salaries, they may have multi-millions, but the leadership they have is a leadership that only benefits their pocket. I say it's not true leadership, because if it is true leadership seek the advancement of other people. It's an energy that seeks the improvement of others. True leaders value people. They help others to discover their value. And so it's not enough that you are valuable. It's that you also help other people to discover their value. Because look, a blind man, one-eyed man amidst 1,000 blind people, it's not really different from a blind man. To be rich among a sea of poor people is true poverty. True leaders inspire confidence in people to become themselves. And you see, when you are intimidated by the emergence of other people, you will not want to inspire them to become themselves, because you think that becoming themselves diminishes your influence. No, that is not true. That is totally untrue. And that's why we are doing this, because we must see what true leadership is. The moment you think that true leadership is not about people, then you are not afraid anymore to help other people to become themselves. And that's the subtle difference between the conventional leadership style and the original leadership that was handed down right from the beginning of time. True leaders never really compete with other people. Their competition is with themselves, because it's about, have I brought out my child, this child that is within me? Have I battered my child? Have I brought out this child? A pregnant woman has no time to be jealous of another beautiful man. Because once pregnancy, once the pains of delivery takes over, the woman has no eyes to see other people. That's why I say true leadership is not about other people. It's not about competing with other people, but instead it's about bringing a child to life. It's about helping other people to become themselves again. An original. True leadership is not about people, but about purpose. Leadership is about finding your purpose, not about finding and pursuing people. People will be attracted to a person who is pursuing his purpose. A leader doesn't look for followers. They keep busy pursuing their purpose. And this is the truth. You see, you don't look for people, but they find you. They find you only because you are looking for purpose. It's a paradox. You don't find people, you are preoccupied with finding a purpose, but then people find you because you found your purpose. And I always say that the reason why people ignore you is because you are ignorant about yourself. Because once you become educated back into yourself, that's why the Greek philosopher will say, "Oh man, know thyself." And even to people who have a bit of religious thing in their mind, say the reason why you're knowing God, why God wants you to know Him, is so that you can know what you truly are. Because knowing God, knowledge of God, is true education about man. Because God made His own man as His proper offspring. And how do you know a child? Just look at his father. The child just needs to look to the father to understand his heritage and identity. So if you want to be great, pursue purpose, your vision and your gift and your assignment, and people will find you. Leadership is about becoming, not doing. You can never forget people who become themselves. That's why certain people will never be erased from the sand of time. They will never be forgotten. When you become yourself, you declare independence from people. Because look, everyone wants to give you an opinion of you to you. They want to give their 50 cents. But that's not important, because once you know yourself, well, every opinion is just an opinion. And it might sometimes be like my great leader said, it could be an opinion harshly expressed. I'm talking about Dr. David Oyedepo. Because he knows himself. So if you criticize him in a harsh manner, well, it's just an opinion harshly expressed. You cannot be recognized if you are same as everybody else. Why do we go to the shop where you have sales. You say buy one get one free. Well, you will never find a truly valuable shirt in season that is sold for as 2 for 1. It's gonna be the less expensive one, the less valuable ones. A leader is an original, not a copy. It is difficult to ignore an original. Impossible, apparently. And your goal in life is not to become someone else. You want to become yourself. Because attempting to become someone else is practicing self-cancellation. And when you do that, you are neither fit for your original position, neither can you indeed become someone else. Because that position is a position that is meant for the people for whom they are created. And so once you leave your own place of authority, you begin to cause pain instead of pleasure. Learn from others, but never become them. You see, whether it's in school or in offices or in every society where we find ourselves, let's learn from others. Let's learn all that we can. But you cannot successfully become someone else because you are you. And only one of you is enough. So there's no point trying to make other people to look like you. Help them to become themselves, but help them to find their purpose, because only them can they truly serve. And they can serve with meaning because they are no longer in competition. They are no longer trying to become someone else. They have found what they must truly deliver. And it is that thing that they have to deliver that we really need about them. If you hire someone as an accountant, I always use that example, and the person goes to the HR department and keeps doing HR function, well, you're not going to be happy with that person, and you're not going to want to pay him because you did not hire that person for HR. You hired him as an accountant. So don't lose yourself to other people. You become yourself when you declare independence from other people's expectations and opinions of you. You become a leader when you decide to be an original, not a copy of other people. The reason why we are saying this is, I like to say it for the umpteenth time. Look, if we refuse to evaluate our understanding, our current version of leadership, our work will not just become the same, it grows worse than it is. And so you cannot say those are the leaders. You are the leader. And now we see it now, that leadership is really not about other people. It's about finding who you are, finding what you are asked to deliver and delivering it. So I charge us to protect the most important thing given to you, your personality. Because that's exactly what gives you value. You are not original, no replacement, no duplicate. And isn't it true that even when you look at your hand, look at the palm of your hand, the marks on your fingers or on the palm of your hands are not the same. So that's even on your own body. Look at your eyelashes. They are not exactly the same shape, same size. Look at your ears. Look at your eyes. They don't open to the same extent. One eye seems to be a little closer, open than the other. It's the reality about us. Our heads don't have perfect symmetry. One finger seems to be longer than the other. It's because everything is created unique. God is too creative to create duplicates. Okay, so God never repeats anything in creation. No two things are ever the same. When you imitate, you lose your value. Leaders are people who have declared independence from other people. Just a reminder, leadership is the eye of the organization and the nation. So whatever team that you are in now, you are the eye of that leadership. Your ability to burst to leadership is what gives that organization and indeed the nation sight. Leadership provides vision for the family, for the community, for the city, and for the nation indeed. Without true leadership, the family, the community, and the city, and the nation are lost. So seeking approval from everybody else is a medium to losing the essence of true leadership. I'm going to round up just about here, because although I have a slide that is nearly 150 pages. So I'm going to round up about here, and we'll continue next time because of time. So seeking approval from everybody else is a medium to losing the essence of leadership. True leaders are not preoccupied by the attention and approval of others. They do what is right, and that's why you like them. They just focus on doing what is right. Imitation is not just flattery. Imitation is actually foolishness. For you to imitate, you have to lose yourself. Dear leaders, let's try and bring this home. It's the fact that um, we have to think about the difference that we are truly born to make. And unless we do, our world is in trouble. Our communities are in trouble. We are uniquely positioned to be agents of change. And I encourage us to think deeply about that. We have to talk about leadership because because most people don't even think that they're leaders in the first instance because of the way they define leadership. That's why we have to bring about a new idea, because your mind does not really change unless your idea about yourself change. When your ideas change about yourself, your life truly changes. So let's bring this home, and let's invite our friends. The curtain is open. If you want to invite anyone, feel free. Invite them. Let them consider this thought, and a repeat broadcast is always available on our YouTube channel. So I encourage you to take time to look at it, listen to it again, and if you have an idea you want to share with us, let us know. We will give you 5-10 minute session to share what is on your heart, because you are a leader and you have to speak. God bless you, and see you next time.